Hey guys, my name is Matimio, and today I'm a little frustrated. Many of you guys know that I love the SRAW in Battlefield 4. I've loved it since the very beginning of the game's release. It's the reason why the Engineer class is my favorite kit in the game, and it all comes down to that one rocket. It was challenging, it was satisfying, but ever since the most recent update, as I'm sure all of you guys are aware, the patch has put a wrench into that enjoyment. I told myself that when that patch went live that I was going to stick through it. I was going to grit my teeth, I was going to learn the mechanics, and I was going to be able to use it, maybe not to the same standards that I could before, because, well, it just doesn't have that same capability anymore, but I was going to relearn it, and I was going to start to use this once again as my primary rocket of choice. Sadly, and this really hurts me because you guys know how much I love this thing, I've come to the conclusion after hours, tens of hours of playing with the new mechanics, playing with the new SRAW, I've come to the conclusion that this thing now sucks. When you compare it to the SMAW and the RPG, it underperforms in almost every situation. Basically what DICE has done to the SRAW is that before the patch, it was at least a decent way at taking out helicopters. That was its main draw. You could take out tanks, but you would be at a disadvantage because you had to stand out in the open. It was still decent at that, but really its main draw was to snipe helicopters out of the sky. If you were skillful enough, it was possible, but it was still incredibly challenging, and that was really the main reason why it was so satisfying. But because in this most recent update, they went in and nerfed its turn radius, I would argue that the SRAW is now inferior at taking out helicopters compared to the SMAW. I am terrible with the SMAW. I literally just started using it yesterday. I don't have hundreds of hours with this thing like other players have, and I'm still able to snipe helicopters out of the sky because of that faster travel speed. If I had more time and I had the same type of dedication that I put to the SMAW with the RPG, I could probably pull off even more impressive snipes on these helicopters. But the main reason why the SMAW, in my opinion, is a hell of a lot better than the SRAW at taking out helicopters is simply because it travels significantly faster through the air. The reason why the SRAW is so difficult right now is that yes, you can maneuver it in the sky, but because helicopters move so quickly, as soon as they do a strafe run on you, you can fire, but you're gonna have some divine intervention to figure out where they're gonna be when your SRAW finally reaches its destination, because if you don't have omniscience and you can't make that ridiculous prediction, there is no way that you're gonna be able to get that kill. And while I'm not saying that it's a cakewalk to snipe something with the SMAW, like don't get me wrong, it's still challenging, it's still very satisfying, but it felt significantly easier to drop those targets when I was using that rocket compared to the SRAW. Another thing that's been irritating me about the SRAW, and one of the main reasons why I've been making this transition over the last couple of days, is that it is awful in tank combat. When you're using the RPG and the SMAW, one of the best benefits of that is that if you see a tank coming on in, and this is the main reason why you would want to use these rockets, you see them roll on in, you fire your rocket, and they duck behind cover. Because of this dynamic, it allows you to get another rocket really quickly reloaded, but also keeps you concealed and not only keeps you protected because you're behind cover, but also makes it very challenging for the tank driver to know exactly where you are. You can get 2 or 3 shots off before the tank even realizes exactly where you're located, and that gives you a huge advantage in those confrontations. The SRAW, on the other hand, while you're almost guaranteed to hit that first shot because it is wire guided, I will admit that is one of the nice benefits of the SRAW, at least in tank combat, but as soon as you go for that second shot, because you have to be out in the open for a significant amount of time to line it up to begin with, he's gonna have no problem dropping you. Some of you might be thinking now, for shame, Matimio, you've used the SRAW since the very beginning. You should know that as long as you have your crosshair over the tank, and if you start to reload, the rocket is still going to fly towards its destination and land exactly where you were pointing. And you would be right, but as soon as the tank realizes that you're there and you're going against a competent tank driver, they're gonna make themselves a harder target. They're gonna start moving around. And because of that slower travel speed of the SRAW, it basically ensures that you either need to have awesome prediction skills, like I mentioned before, or you need to sit out in the open for a little bit longer to ensure that the rocket is gonna reach its destination. That little bit of time gives the tank a plenty of opportunity to go in and slap you around and eventually get the kill on you. Another thing that puts a little bit of a wrench into this concept is that when you're no longer aiming down the scope and you go for that reload, the rocket doesn't always go exactly where you're pointing. I learned of this just yesterday. I feel like an idiot because I've been using the SRAW since the very beginning, but apparently my followers said that this is a mechanic that's been in the game since the very beginning. But as soon as you're no longer aiming down sight, your rocket will actually kind of go up a little bit. To give you a very clear example, I'm looking at this ledge here. I fire it. It should hit directly at the top of it, but it sails right on over. Like I said, this was news to me. I mean, people claimed that this was since the very beginning, and I'll take their word on it, but I distinctly remember, maybe my memory is just fuzzy, that I had multiple occasions where I would be going after a sniping recon who was just camping off in the distance. I would fire the rocket, start the reload process, knowing that the rocket would hit exactly where I was aiming, and of course the kill would happen like 2 seconds later. Maybe my memory is terrible, and I have absolutely no idea what I'm talking about, but this is just further evidence that you have to stay out in the open longer, ensuring that your rocket is going to slam into the side of the tank. And so it's because of these two reasons why I've been more and more frustrated when I am using this weapon on the battlefield. Sure, it does have its moments. Yes, it is the best at sniping things at long range, and every once in a while, once in a blue moon, you can snipe a helicopter at the sky. It's the reason why when you guys see my stream highlights that I freak out. It's because it's that challenging. It happens so infrequently now that when it does happen, you have to screech like a little schoolgirl. It's that incredible. But as soon as I started to transition on over to the SRAW, it really did feel like I was using a superior weapon. Not only because it felt way better at taking out tanks, which is something that you're going to be fighting a hell of a lot more than aircrafts, but when that scout helicopter did make that strafing run, I felt way more confident dropping it with the SRAW compared to the SRAW, which I've used since the very beginning, to something that I just picked up the other day, and I think that really speaks volumes for how far the SRAW has fallen in its power. Maybe you guys will disagree with me, saying that I suck, I'm the worst player ever, I have no idea what I'm talking about, but I feel like I gave this a fair shake. It was, like I said, my favorite weapon in the game. I love the SRAW before this update, and I think the reason why I'm as upset as I am right now is that I have put tens of hours into the new mechanics. I've really tried to make it work, but every time I transition on over to using the SRAW, it does feel like I'm just using a superior weapon overall in basically every situation. 90% of the time, the SRAW in the RPG is just going to be flat out better than the SRAW, and that is a sad day. But yeah, guys, that is about it for today's video. I realize this was a little bit of a rant, but I hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know your thoughts on this topic. Have you been someone who's been able to stick with it, you've been able to make it work, or have you transitioned like kind of I'm thinking on over to the other rockets? Let me know down below. But yeah, guys, until tomorrow, have a good one and take it easy.